Why is Sheerness so poor? Hey there, fellow explorers! Our exploration today is somewhat unique. We're going to be focusing on a very small town with a stronger reputation. This town has been in the news in recent times, such that you could be made to take its size for that of a bigger town or the entire borough. In this video, we're featuring no other town but Sheerness in Kent. For a number of years now, this town has had some unwholesome connections with poverty. But why? It's a complex subject, definitely begging the question, why is Sheerness so poor? That's exactly what we'll be finding an answer to in this video. Please follow along as we dissect the causes of poverty in Sheerness. About Sheerness. But where's Sheerness? Is that relevant to this discussion? Perhaps. Please bear with us as you always remember that some of those viewing this video aren't in England. Such ones may not be as conversant with this town as much as many of you are. Just in case someone needs to be carried along, we're doing this. Let's first put the Sheerness we have on our hands in context. No, we're not going to Sheerness in Alberta, but we're discussing a port town and civil parish in Kent. It's beside the mouth of the River Medway. You'll find this Sheerness on the northwest corner of the Isle of Sheppey. That's in the north of the county of Kent. It's one of the largest towns on the island. With a population of more than 13,000, it's second only to the nearby town of Minster, which has 21,319 residents. Located about 60 kilometres east of London, it's in the district of Swale in the Shire county of Kent. The town that was conceived in 1665 by the Navy Board for Sheerness Dockyard as a facility for provisioning and repair of warships began as a fort built also to protect the Medway River. It was the favoured site by Samuel Pepys for shipbuilding, the then Clerk of the Acts of the Navy. If the historical development and its founding were maintained, it shouldn't be among the poor towns. Thanks to this town, the Isle of Sheppey was once one of the busiest naval dockyards in Britain. So why is Sheerness so poor, if it had such a good beginning? Sheerness economic perception. Today, how is Sheerness perceived economically? It's one of the country's poorest towns. Take child poverty, for instance. While this appears to have begun dropping, even if insignificantly, in Swale over the past 2 years, following several years on the increase, the terrible situation has continued to increase in Sheerness East. This region currently has a percentage of children living in poverty higher than anywhere else in Swale. According to End Child Poverty, the body issuing national figures compiled by Loughborough University. As per the recent set of statistics covering July to September 2017, 44% of children in East Sheerness were living in poverty. Based on the stat released in January 2018, the average for Swale was 27%. Even when it's perceived that the statistics are improving borough-wide, Sheerness East has been an exemption. To illustrate, from October to December 2015 in Swale, an average was 28% of children were living in poverty. That dropped by 1% by 2017, as you can see, but Sheerness East didn't share in the 1% drop, as it had 41%, representing an increase of 3%, well against the trend. The statistics of poverty for the entire borough show some variation, while that of Sheerness shows a constant increase. When child poverty averaged 26% borough-wide, it was 37% in Sheerness. The figures that served as the basis for the perception of poverty in Sheerness vary depending on the definition of children living in poverty and low-income families. Thus, from what's actually happening besides statistics, is the town really poor? Is it really poor? Can we really say it is poor based on what can be seen physically in the town? Well, 5 food banks are operating in the town each week to feed those in need. Now, if you have as much as that in a town, it's clear proof that poverty reigns supreme in such a town. It only tallies with the English Index of Multiple Deprivation 2015, which ranked Swale as the second most deprived area in Kent. By the same measure, it's the 4th most deprived area in Sheerness East and the most deprived outside of Thanet. Many residents of the town quoted in famous media complain that the opportunity to work isn't just there. Others say the few job opportunities aren't just available to the common people. The reality of this has lured young minds into crime and drugs. The town also struggles with housing problems and fly tipping. While the officials argue that it's blown out of proportion, they can't deny the reputation the town has gathered as having problems with drugs. But the question remains, why is Sheerness so poor? Why Sheerness fell into poverty. The cause of poverty in Sheerness is hydra-headed. In the mid-20th century, the town at the mouth of the Thames was a perfect spot for building and maintenance of ships. However, savage spending cuts by Harold Macmillan's government in the 1960s saw the dockyards close. Subsequently, much of Britain began its steady turn away from manufacturing, and more than 2,500 skilled jobs were lost with the brutal closure of the dockyard. That was in addition to employment related to the jobs. The area never really recovered from this. It's been coasting along only with a strong sense of community that remains up to this day. Furthermore, this story of how Sheerness became so poor can be traced to the closure of its historic church back in the 1970s. It was later burnt out after what was arguably an accidental fire. The economic, social and cultural life of the town was hitherto tied to the edifice and its activities, which were clearly beyond religious. With the cessation of all that, economic activities were reduced and poverty took centre stage there. One big challenge aiding poverty in Sheerness is that it's a forgotten place. Sheerness doesn't have its own council in charge of the town. It shares a government at this level with surrounding areas. So the expressions of Will Palin tell a pathetic story of the town, as he says. The son of Michael Palin, a popular TV royalty star, complained that a lot of people feel the town is a forgotten part of England. He added that when they say they're from the Isle of Sheppey, most people consider them as off the coast of Scotland, not in the nearby Thames estuary. This is not unconnected with its lack of government oversight. Even the authorities of the Swale Borough Council in charge of the town are financially handicapped. Regardless of intentions, the council has suffered years of cuts under austerity, just like regional authorities across the country. As a result, many of the old buildings in the town have faced an uncertain future, even though the place is being considered special. For example, the council's budget, which was £18,825,000 in 2008-9, was reduced to £18,146,000 in 2016-17. But in a real economic sense, this reduction was more than just a few £100,000. If you compare these figures to the measurement by the Bank of England inflation calculator, what was £18,825 in 2009 would be £24,005 in 2017. Therefore, for the council's budget to have the same economic value in 2017 as it had in 2009, not even an increment, it must increase accordingly, not remain the same amount, and definitely not reduced. Even if the increase in demand for services were ignored, there should have been a 28% increase in the budget since 2009, just to keep in line with inflation. But instead of that, it reduced by 4%. Efforts to overcome poverty in the town. Here is the good news. All hope isn't lost. The National Lottery Heritage supported the Dockyard Trust with a grant of £4.75 million to aid the trust in providing the island with a lifeline. It also managed to raise another £4 million from several other trusts. Will Palin spearheaded an extraordinary project that was to rejuvenate Sheerness. Another £8 million development project is underway with a focus on facelifting the derelict seafront church. When finished, it'll provide new facilities for youths in the area. Conclusively, the Sheerness Dockyard Preservation Trust is also expected to lead the charge on regenerating Sheerness. It was launched in 2014 with the dock's historic church as its first project. We have another video on this channel dealing with the question, what is it like living in Sheerness? Please search for it and kindly let's have your comments on both. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.